Chances are you've eaten at a restaurant, when a sit-down restaurant, and the check gets here. Everybody been there? You know what I'm talking about? Right? It's kind of a thing we do in life. So the check gets there, and you're left with the task of figuring out how much tip you're going to leave. Okay? Now, it's amazing because restaurants have gotten really sophisticated with this to make sure that to help you out, there's if you're doing the little electronic thing that's on the table, it'll actually suggest, and it'll click right over that 10% deal. Because there's sort of manners and there's a whole etiquette involved in how much you give. And there's a lot that goes into that decision, like how is that waiter or waitress, like can I look them in the eye when I leave, or should I just give them the tip and then run out? Will they think it's generous? Will they think I'm being a cheapskate? There's all sorts of things that are going to happen. Am I ever going to go back to this restaurant? Will they spit in my food if I give them a tip later on? If I feel like, oh, there they are, let's get them. So what I realized is that quite often, when we think about giving in the church, do we sometimes approach it in the same way? Think about it. What percent should I give? And let me just say, if you take out your calculator to figure out what you're going to give at church, I want you to see that this series is going to be for you. And it's for me as well. It's called The Treasure Principle, which is what we'll be looking at the next probably 6 weeks or so. And it's based on the book. I'll go grab the book. It's a tiny book, so it's great. It's a favorite book of preachers because it fits the preacher book code. Preachers love to have big books, but they love to read little books. So here it is. This is one of the small ones you'll find. But boy, let me tell you, it is packed with all kinds of really cool, powerful things in there. And so we'll be kind of, looking at some of those things because he says some really cool stuff in there. And it helps us to rethink, because a lot of times when we think of stewardship, it's along those lines. It's about money, it's about percentages, it's about, well, how much should I give, and is God going to be mad at me? What are people going to think? And if you've had this happen, right, the plate goes by you and you don't put anything in, how do you feel? You hope no one notices, don't you? You're hoping, especially you're on vacation, you're like, I'm not going to go to church here, and I forgot to bring any money with me. There's no ATM, so it's going to have to pass. So you're going to make, and the very fact that we think you have to make excuses says that maybe we're starting from the wrong point. I'm not saying percentages are wrong. 10% is a biblical thing. You'll find it in there. But the 10%, the real percentage that works scripturally is 100%. In other words, it's 100% His, all that I have. So you're not going to hear, it's the last time you're going to hear the words time, talent, treasure come out of my mouth, because they're buzzwords and they're churchy words. Time, talent, treasure. I said it twice, sorry. That'll be it. And even the word stewardship, it's a tough word because it makes it all sound like a subject in school. Am I right? And it's all about getting the right formulas and getting the right information and getting it all correct, thinking that that's what matters. It's about our hearts, what we believe. How is God my treasure? And it is my life in His hands. It's all of my life come from Him. And so where do my possessions fit in? Like, where does my stuff fit in? Where does my time fit in? All of that. My whole life. What do I do with it? And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about really what are the foundations for that. Because I think it's really, really important. The treasure principle comes from Matthew 6. Let's look at that. It's the first half of that double gospel reading we have there today. But it's Matthew 6, verse 19. Jesus says, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, where thieves can break in and steal. He's starting it from a very practical standpoint. Why would you put all your eggs in a basket that they can take? That can be stolen? That's going to rot. That's going to decay. Why would we give my life for things that constantly change, let me down, disappoint me and that are headed for a landfill one day. Why would I dedicate everything in my life to those things? That's his question. He says, no, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where that is not able to happen. Why? Because those are eternal things. Moth and rust, not there. Thieves are not there. Right? Eternal things. God, all of his glory. Right? Eternal life. That's what's there. So your treasure is stored up there. Invest in eternal things here on earth. Because here's the principle. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where your treasure is. You can't get away from this principle. It's everywhere in Scripture. Whatever is God to you, whatever is ultimate to you, whatever is the be-all, end-all for you, I will guarantee that I will find you doing that. I will find you dreaming about that. If I could get into your dreams, right? That's what you thought. Not going to happen. Trust me, so don't worry about it. But if I could, and if I could see your checkbook, and if I could see, right, your day, and I would not have to. You would not have to tell me what you value. You would not have to tell me what's important to you. If I looked at like a couple months of your life of all of that, or if you looked at mine, you would know this is where his treasure is. This is what really gets him excited, right? Really like runs his life. It's this. And Jesus says, let's make sure it's something eternal. And things that are eternal, not things that break, things that wear out, things that are here today and gone tomorrow. See, but we a lot of times we find ourselves, we get caught up in not just in the tip thing, but in like, how much do I have versus someone else, and all of that. In the treasure principle, there's a great way of thinking about this. And this, I said in the earlier service, I'll repeat it again, like I almost fell over out of my chair when I read this explanation of it, a picture of it that he gives. He says, okay, pretend that you're alive during the Civil War, okay? You're a northerner, right? You're from, like, Jersey or something, right? Which is a great place to be from. But a northern, or Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is good, too. But you're from a northern state, right? Northern territory, but you find yourself in the South. It's the end of the war. You know, without a doubt, right? This hypothetical, and this is how it actually turned out in history, is that the North won, right? Yay, North. Give me an amen. Right? That's great. The North won. The United States continues to be the United States, not the Confederate States. Okay, so you know that. You're down there in the South. You have a lot of Confederate money because you're living down there. But you know that the war is going to be over. The North is going to win. So here's the question. What are you going to do with all of that Confederate money that you have? He says in the book that the wise person is going to try to convert as much of that into United States currency as possible. To use the Confederate money, while it's still legitimate money, while it's still usable, use it. But realize that, right, that if you're going to keep all of it, most of it's going to become absolutely, positively worthless. And then what Alcorn does in the book is he says, okay, so now look at that from a heavenly perspective and your life perspective. We are given all these things on the earth, things that are temporary, things that are one day not going to be necessary. Am I right? Heaven boils down to two things. And it's the two things that I for my time as a pastor, I try to keep it this simple. Jesus and people. Am I right? Jesus, that's what lives forever. Jesus and people. And people because of Jesus, we live forever. So he's ultimate. He's what matters. He's the treasure. Why? Because he sees us as his treasure. So the big treasure principle is this, that you cannot take it with you, but you can kind of send it on ahead. So life becomes not about what I can keep in terms of my pay, in terms of my time, in terms of whatever it is. It's not about like what do I get to keep? It's about what do I get to use? How do I get to use all that I have? Realize that a lot of it's going to be temporary. Realize that I have the greatest gift of all. Think about that. The Lord of the universe came down here because he saw us as his treasure and said, I'm going to get rid of everything, right? Jesus stripped himself of all of his godness to come down here to be one of us and to die in our place. Perfect, spotless. He did that, went to that cross, right, with all that guilt, all that shame, took it all on him so that he could have us. That's your situation in life, right? That alone is to dictate how you live each day. It should reflect that great truth, shouldn't it? An eternal truth. Because that's the only truth. Listen to this. The only thing in your life that's never going to change. Everything else is going to. Right? My hair color. The way my body looks. It's all going to change. All those things we think, oh yeah, this is me, right? Diesel, strong. Right? And then I don't care. You're not going to win that fight against gravity. It's not going to happen. I'm finding out myself. We all are. Money. I mean, all of it. It's temporary. So we use it, right? We use it. It's a tool. It's a gift. It's this awesome thing, but it's not the main thing. He is. He's the treasure. He's the priceless one. What did Paul say in Philippians? Such a powerful passage. Because whatever thing that's in the gain column for me, in the plus column, I consider it a loss compared to the surpassing worth of knowing Christ my Lord. In fact, it goes, I consider it garbage next to knowing Him. I want to know Him. I want to know about His resurrection. I want to be part of that. I want to, and I don't want anything to stand in the way of that, anything to distract me from that, or to pull me away from that. So I want you to look at your life and say, okay, what am I attached to? Because you know the old scene in the movies, right? The guy's on the boat, and you know what's going to happen, right? Right? He might be attached to something. He may not even know he's attached to something. His leg might have like a fishing line attached to it, and there's a shark on the other end. And guess where he's going if the shark goes that way? And guess where you're going if your mind and your heart. See, your heart is like that line. You're attached to whatever it is. And whatever direction it's going, guess what? You're going in that direction. It will pull you if you're attached. And what Jesus is saying, don't be attached to it. Because you can go fishing and not be attached to the line, can't you? You can do a lot of things not being attached to it, without it being like everything. If I lose it, my life's going to be over. See, that's what he's trying to talk about here. The move is found in Matthew 13, right? This is what it looks like when we encounter the kingdom of heaven. When we encounter the grace of God, when we encounter how awesome He is. It's this treasure that's in a field, and we find it, and we hide it again, right? Because we want to make sure that nothing stops us from having it, right? And in joy, it says, the man goes and sells all he has and buys that field, right? That's what God did for us, and so I realize that that's what God wants me to have. It's what He's saying is do anything that you possibly can to make sure that it's yours. There's nothing more important, is there, than that. But the most important part of this passage I want you to see in verse 44 is that in His joy, He went and sold everything. Isn't that weird? Anyone else find that detail kind of strange? Because He gets rid of everything. And when was the last time that you thought that selling everything you have would be a good thing? Anybody? Because what's usually happening in your life, you have to start selling everything. Things have gotten desperate. He's saying, what if we could tweak our thinking and say, wow, what if it was a joyful thing? Listen to this, because of what we get. See, we're so worried about what we're going to lose, right? What part we don't get to keep, what part that God's going to somehow take away from us. Like He's not a loving Father who lavishes, and as we talked about yesterday at Dolores' services, who graciously gives us all things. He graciously gives us all things, including His Son. So it's this joy that we say, you know what? I'm not telling you to go out and sell everything today. Not at all. But I'm asking you, look at what you're attached to. Look at where your heart is. Look at what your treasure is. Because He's the only treasure that will never, ever, ever, ever let you down. It's the one that can't be taken. It's the one that can't be stolen. It's not going to rust. It's not going to fall apart. In fact, when everything's falling apart, when all those other things that we are focusing on and tethered to and possessed by, when they all fail, He won't. That's the awesome thing. The thing I want us to grasp, that's that kind of treasure that He is. He's not going anywhere. He's holding us, and He is with us. So let's embrace Him and His treasure. And let's do this instead. Instead of looking at the tip as to, what I'm going to, how much do I have to give? Think about it this way. What if it could mean more like investing in that restaurant? What if you saw it that way? Instead of just, I got to pay my bill. Say, you know what? I got a great meal. I'm going to invest in the chef. I'm going to invest in the owners. I'm going to support them. I want them to keep doing this and keep providing this. And I'm going to invest in that waiter or waitress because, I want to make sure that they are lifted up and supported. Very different, isn't it, than paying a bill and leaving a tip? What if we stopped paying bills and leaving tips? And what if we started investing in people and in a future? Because let me just say, it's a disaster when that thinking becomes how we give at church. Right? So if we like the preacher, we leave a tip. Right? We give him a little extra. Right? And it's just, it's all about support, man. It's all about, like, we're in this. And we want to see the world change through this gift. So let's pray. Lord, you're the greatest treasure. You, the one who holds all things, gave it all up for us. To win us back, to buy us back, to make us yours. Lord, let that truly invade the pride of our hearts, the struggles that we have. Lord, to see that our only freedom is not in holding on to the other things we have, but in giving them away. Especially in our hearts, to where they don't have a hold on us. Lord, that we can see them for what they are, as a way of helping, as a way of supporting, as a way of bringing joy to ourselves and the people around us. Lord, that would guide, that would be the way that we work and operate each day. In Jesus' name, amen.